My name is Dr. Zoltán Buzady. I'm assistant professor at Corvinus University, Budapest, probably the best business school now in Central Europe. I'm an expert in flow leadership. I would like to reply to one of the questions which my student has had recently on a class. Highly interesting, I think of general interest. This course, which I have been teaching, is called Global Management Practice, and it is designed like a developmental journey for developing personality and, more importantly, leadership skills of our students. During this course, we have been talking about flow as a psychological phenomenon, often called a reality, sometimes described as a theory. I simply call it a phenomenon because it puts two aspects together. We have established in this course that the theory of flow emphasizes that flow is about finding the right balance between two dimensions of a person's particular skill at hand and a challenge which the person has to master. Scientists like my colleague, Professor Csikszentmihalyi, have discovered that there is a connection between experiencing the mental state of flow between these two dimensions. Basically, the higher a person's skill level is, the more likely the person can exit the zone of boredom, move into control, and touch from below the flow zone, the happiness zone, the creativity zone, by developing further the skills in a challenge which is unusual, high, and therefore this challenge gives an opportunity for the person to develop new mastery. Now, we have been talking about people management in this context, and what has emerged is, what if a person who's not very interested in a certain subject area or given a certain industry, can a person, a leader, help another person to experience this flow? Can a person be manipulated into flow despite a natural lack of interest? The question my student Peter had asked me was the following. My questions related to the role of personal interest in various topics. Are some situations when someone experiences, say, an anxiety or boredom, and so on, are these related to the topic simply because they do not have a personal interest in that particular topic? Or can any topic become of interest to anyone given that the flow conditions are met, i.e. by matching the levels of challenge and skills? He then described a situation, an example. If I were to introduce someone without prior experience in, say, a winery business, and that person would get into this business, and that person has no skills in this field and also has no personal interest, then would it always be possible to make any topic, such as the winery business in our example, interesting to any person, provided that the person gets challenges which can be matched to their skill level? Or could there be some instances in which, even if this condition is met, the balance condition, that this person just simply lacks personal interest and should therefore pursue a different activity and strive to achieve flow conditions in other areas instead? Well, very good question, because it's intellectually pretty complex. Instead of giving a yes or no answer, I would need to explain to you the dynamics. In the description, in the question which Peter has described to us, he outlines a very extreme position. Somebody would enter a new industry at a very high level of challenge and no skills, or almost no skills in that industry. And clearly we would say that this person probably is in anxiety, because everything is new, the whole industry, and the person has little experience or no experience in that. Well, let me go back a little bit to Professor Csikszentmihalyi's book called The Talented Teenagers, The Roots of Success and Failure, which he wrote with some colleagues. In this book, he has analyzed the family backgrounds of creative people And he discovered that actually creative people get both an over challenge and an under challenge. By this I mean that there are certain people who are becoming successful because their environment was so boring that they started to look for challenges by themselves. Yet other people had so much challenges going on in their life that they developed the ability to learn, to develop their skills. In other terms, in other contexts, like business management, we would call this complexity and integration. Basically, life is swimming between these two elements. Life begins, and we tell children black and white. And then they start to discover the world is not black and white, but there are other colors in between situations. So we introduce complexity after a while. When children then start to realize that life is too complex in adolescence years, and even for us as adults it continues, we need to develop a solution for these challenges to integrate reality. Otherwise, we would actually perish. We would lose our lives in anxiety. So the right balance for any person between complexity and integration is the success for survival. So Csikszentmihalyi discovered this, that challenges and skills are actually both necessary. So back to our question, if somebody were in this extreme anxiety zone, a leader would then have to check out for that particular person what skills actually the person is lacking. And for this, I would advise to have a faceted view of skills, to consider that there are different types of skills. And I can hardly imagine that a person has no hard skills, no soft skills, and no knowledge about any given industry, which would somehow become applicable. And here, this is an example from education, because people in the education industry, teachers are having this situation constantly. Let me go back to this. Children are put into new situations in which they are probably unfamiliar with. They don't know any of their skills. And it is the role of the educator, of the teacher, to develop those skills gradually. So therefore, the first answer would be that the person who is leading such a person, who is entering a new industry, a new role, should make an assessment, ideally together with that colleague, on what types of skills the person has and brings to the point. The next is also to consider that, and this is linked to the idea of complexity, that different levels of activities in any industry, any situation, need and require different levels of integration. Let's call it skills. And I put here together from Wikipedia for you an indication that there is no such thing as skills either in terms of complexity. There are different levels of it. Therefore, as we have seen, flow is about finding the right balance, but we also think that great leadership is also about balancing. Balancing for another person the right balance between skills and challenges. So my first answer for Petter is that even if a person enters an interesting situation, which is completely new and interesting to me, it's not necessarily interesting to another person and not a source of flow at all. Actually, it is my responsibility as a leader to develop the skills of that person and to draw the person's attention to it. However, it can also be, by the way, the situation that somebody is very skilled in a certain field and can't make the logical intellectual connection to the new industry. In that case, it is again the leader's role to induce some sort of additional challenge and ask the new colleague, which knowledge, which type of experiences and skills could you apply to the new industry? For example, in our wine industry, you have come from consulting. Do you see any differences or parallels? How can you actually capitalize your skills in our new situation? Csikszentmihalyi and other psychologists also speak of the people who are very happy, in the sense that they are put into a situation at extreme challenges, and they are automatically developing their need to develop the skills. These type of people we call autotelic personalities. Csikszentmihalyi and other psychologists also describe something which we could call the autotelic personality. It is an individual who generally does things for their own sake and in the here and the now, rather than for something later, for a reward, something being told. The autotelic personality of a person is when a person who has specific personality traits. We spoke about that in the leadership theories, whether being a leader is a personal trait question. And yes, it seems that they are able, more able to experience flow than the average person. And the traits which these people need to have or typically have is curiosity, persistence, low self-centeredness, and they have a desire of performing activities for the intrinsic reasons only, so only for per se. So if a person who has this autotelic personality pattern would be put into the wine industry, he would really enjoy life there. But any type of activity, they start to discover their own flow and the interests in it. I've put up here on the slides also a link to Baumann, Nicole Baumann 2012, and here is 3 different pictures. And you would be asked on the test what you think of these pictures. What do these people feel and what are they doing and why are they there? And in this test, you can discover if you have a level of autotelic personality which is average, low, or below. For example, this person is struggling, or this person is actually soon reaching the top. So it's more about the internal interpretation of these pictures which would matter. Or this person is resolving a puzzle, or this person is actually being controlled on the progress. So this is the background. Now, here's a quote by Csikszentmihalyi. It is not enough to be happy to have an excellent life. The autotelic persons and people in flow, they are closer to the next sentence. The point is to be happy while doing things that stretch our skills, that help us grow and fulfill our potential. So why I mention this to you is if you're a leader and you get somebody who doesn't think that this industry is of any interest in the flow, it is your responsibility and opportunity to speak about the flow, about these ideas of skills being applicable to challenges, of integration and complexity. It does not happen to everybody automatically. It happens automatically if you have this autotelic personality. Otherwise, you would need a flow leadership development course. And but therefore, in such courses or in my training, you actually get aware of what are the skills you have yourself as a leader, and in your team, what skills individuals have, and what are the challenges, and who should get which type of job. So when it comes to delegation, it's also important. Now, this balancing, which I just mentioned to you, is not happening by itself. It is dynamic. So a person would start in any type of activity. After a while, they get bored. And also, if you move somebody really way beyond the comfort zone in terms of challenges, you have to make sure that the person gets the support and can speak about what skills they would need. And most people have difficulties describing their skills. They would say things like, a team spirit, or they can drive, but they don't know how good they are at this. Therefore, it is important to measure these skills, especially when it comes to leadership. This is what we do in Fligby, in our global award-winning leadership development program. It's an online simulation game, and it is called Fligby because it's an acronym for Csikszentmihalyi's global bestseller called Flow, but also his other bestseller, Good Business, is the principle of this book. And for you means that it is applicable and reachable as a knowledge, as a serious game for you. I hope this was interesting to you. May the flow be with you, my friends. You can contact me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can look for the flowleadership.org or the Fligby webpage. You can send me an email if you wish. Thank you very much again from me here in Budapest. Great wishes to everybody. Goodbye.